So we got our hero component here. It's looking good, hopefully. And now we also need featured posts for this starting page. Now, what we'll also need besides featured posts, though, is like a navigation bar at the top. Because at the moment, we only have one working page with not too much content on it, arguably, but later we will have other pages as well, the all posts page and the contact page. So therefore, to be able to reach that, we want to add some navigation. And hence, that is something I'll do first before we then come back to the featured posts. I want to add a navigation bar, or to be precise, I want to add a general layout. Because the navigation bar, which should be shown at the top, will not only be needed on the home page. Instead, we will need it on all pages. And that can be solved with a layout, as you learned throughout the course. We can utilize this _app.js file here to wrap the component which is rendered there, which is actually just the page content that was loaded for the different URLs, with a general layout. That is what we can do and what we typically want to do in Next.js applications. And therefore, let's build such a layout component. For that, in the components folder, we can create a new subfolder called layout. And in there, I want to add a couple of components that help us create layouts. The first one will be the layout component itself, a layout.js file. But then I'll add two other files as well, since I want to split my layout into multiple subcomponents. For example, I want to have a separate component that holds the actual navigation bar. So I'll name this main navigation. This will be my navigation component. And that navigation component should also render some logo for my blog, and therefore I'll create a separate logo component. And of course, you can split and mix and match and compose your components just as you need to. This is just some example split which I came up with, which works for me. If it doesn't work for you, if you want to split it in a more granular way or have bigger components, so less splits, that's of course also fine. You just need to adjust the styles then. Now with that, let's start with the layout component. In there, we can again create a function and export that function layout. And in that function, we then return a fragment because I want to have two adjacent JSX elements. And the first one will be the main navigation, so this separate component, which will store in the main navigation file. The second JSX element will be the regular main HTML element in which I want to output props.children. And for this, of course, we need to make sure that we accept props here. Props children, because we will wrap this layout component around this component here in the _app.js file. We can actually already do that here. In this file, we can already import layout from, and then go up one level, dive into the components folder, into the layout folder and the layout file, and then just wrap component with layout. So create layout here and wrap it around this component. Now it's this component which will be used as children or as a child inside of the layout component, so here. So that's step number one. Now I'm using the main navigation here, and hence I also already want to import main navigation from that main navigation JavaScript file. That file, however, is completely empty right now, and that needs to change therefore. So if we go to the main navigation file here, we of course again want to create a main navigation function and then export that as a default, as we always do it. And now inside that main navigation component, I want to return a header element, and then there as a first element my logo, and side by side to that a nav bar with a list of nav items. So here I'll add an unordered list with my list items, where in the list items I have my links. Now for the links, we will not use the standard anchor tag because that would be handled by the browser only. And when we click it, we would load a brand new page and send a brand new request. Instead, we want to use Next's link component to take advantage of automatic data prefetching, which it does for us, and to take advantage of the fact that we stay in a single page application once the page was loaded initially. So therefore, we want to import link from Next link like this, like we did it many times before in this course, and then just output link here. So create a link here. Now the link needs a ref attribute where we point at /posts, for example, and load the posts page. And it has to be /posts because of our page structure. We have the posts folder with the index.js file, which should be loaded when we want to load all posts. And you learned before in this course that this structure in the pages folder leads to a /posts route, which is inferred by Next.js. So we want a link to that route here. Now that's not the only link though. I also want to have a link to my contact page because we also have this contact.js file. And that file will be translated to a /contact route as you learned. So we also want to have a /contact route here. So now we got that. I actually also want to make the logo clickable so that when we click the logo, we're taken back to the starting page. That's a quite common pattern on websites. And therefore, we also wrap the logo with a link like this and give this a ref of just / to go back to the starting page. Now you might remember that there was this special behavior of link when the child you passed to it was not plain text. If you pass your own component or any other HTML content to a link, link will not render an anchor tag by default. It only does that if you just pass plain text to it. If you pass anything else than plain text, the link will not render an anchor tag for you. So in order to get that, you should then bring your own anchor tag, like this. You don't need to add ref on that anchor tag. Link will do that for you. It will pass the ref set on link to the direct child of link, which is an anchor tag now. So it will do that for you, but you have to add the anchor tag element to tell link that it should render an anchor tag. This is not a bug or some inconsistency, but this feature exists to make sure that you can turn any element into a link, a div, a button, whatever you want. But here we want the anchor tag still, so I will add my own anchor tag wrapped around my logo. And speaking of the logo, that's of course still missing. I just added this dummy JSX code here, but we are not importing it, and the logo.js file is also empty. And therefore, as a next step, we'll work on that, and we're then also going to add some styling.